The Full Circle Podcast. Compelling interviews and incredible tales from Colorado's Western Slope, from the mountains to the desert. Christi Reece and her team hear from the movers, shakers, and characters of the Grand Valley and surrounding mountain towns that make the Western Slope the place we all love. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you'll love with The Full Circle. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Full Circle Podcast. Today, I'm really happy to have 4 members of the Home Builders Association, so we can have a little roundtable about what's going on with home building and the association here in Grand Junction. So we have David Hancock, the president of the HBA. We have Carrie Gutzwiller, the treasurer. Kevin Bray, on the executive board, and Shana Heine, who is the executive officer. Thank you for joining us today. So lots to talk about. Let's start with you, Shani. A lot of people really don't know what an HBA is or what it does. Tell us a little bit about your job and the function of the HBA here in Grand Junction.
Yes, I think it's, people really know us for for our events, the Home Expo and the Parade of Homes, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Our advocacy work, our careers of construction, with our programs in the high schools. We're also doing a diaper drive, Builders for Babies. So It's really great to be at that point where we have our events, but also being able to contribute back into the community as well.
Mm-hmm. And you all meet on a regular basis. What kind of things are you discussing at your meetings?
I would say a little bit of everything. At our meetings, we have several committees that meet every month, and then also our, the normal executive and all those kind of things. And then we have a quarterly luncheon as well. So I feel like there's always something going on. We have a great website that everyone can check out our latest and greatest of events, HBAWesternCo.com.
And besides events, you're an advocate for the building industry as a whole, correct?
Absolutely. And I think that's where people, you might not see that, but our advocacy work behind the scenes is extremely important, and that is why we're here.
Right. Because I know we've talked about housing issues, cost of housing, regulations, how that can slow things down, planning processes, and how we can improve building and the housing prospects here in the Grand Valley. Yeah. Well, let's talk about building codes a little bit, and this is for all of you. Building code changes can sound technical and boring, but why should a home buyer care whether the HBA is weighing in on these updates?
I'm going to give this one to Kevin Bray, as he has been on several code committees.
So I think I've talked about this before. Like I've always say that the highway to high housing cost is paved with good intentions. Mm-hmm. And it is. It's and you'll hear people say this. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. So there's constant regulations, and a lot of times they're really well intended. Mm-hmm. But those regulations do have effects on costs. Those costs then get transferred to eventually to the home buyers, and it drives up the cost of a home. And so I think that's something that we're constantly paying attention to. Sometimes the regulation is necessary and needed. It's a safety issue, mm-hmm. Something along those lines. But a lot of times we have regulations that are something that we want, and that maybe the cost benefit isn't there. Maybe that home buyer would rather be able to afford the home than have this amenity that we're putting in the code. So those are the types of things that we really try to scrutinize. Is it necessary? Mm-hmm. Is this an amenity? Are we removing choice by requiring this? Is there a cost benefit to mm-hmm. the regulation?
And so is this something that you talk about at your regular meetings? Do you have a section where you talk about code changes and things that are affecting the industry and the cost as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. We meet every month. We have our normal board meetings, and at every board meeting, we're going over an executive level overview. And then each of our chairmen for each committee, whether it's government affairs, that's our number one. Mm-hmm. And then every event committee goes through the same type of updates. So we're talking about this on a regular basis. Most committees meet at least once a month anyway. And government affairs committee, Kevin's the chair of our government affairs committee, and him and Ron and Diane and everybody have put in a lot of time and effort in spearheading this effort. So mm-hmm. we want to be able to educate the general public and our membership on what's going on, and making sure that we're up to speed on it is paramount.
Mm-hmm. And talking about some of the regulations and the codes, some of them are coming down from a federal level. Some are from the state level. Some are energy codes. Some are safety codes, but then on the local level, sometimes we have beautification efforts, right? And making neighborhoods more walkable, which everybody wants, right? But if it drives up the cost of housing, that's what you're talking about, Kevin. Like, there's some things that maybe we need to just think about how it affects the affordability. And what does then the HBA do about affecting change?
Well, as far as the Government Affairs Committee is concerned, we're taking every topic of discussion that comes along and considering those factors. What is this going to do to our current housing market? What's the benefit behind it? What's the cost implication? Because a lot of times through regulation, the cost isn't really discussed, and that could be a problem. And so we try to pick and choose what's being discussed at the table each month. Obviously, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of big events on the regulation side. And so hoping to go through some of those updates today. But anyway, that has to be considered every time we sit down at the table.
So, and I would just add to that, I think that the how we do that is we always make sure that we've got a place at the table. We stay at the table. We stay involved. We're respectful to our partners, we try to stay close to our local electeds, and we have, it's not just like what happens within the HBA, but a lot of our members are involved in different committees, different aspects around the city and the county. So the fact that we have a place where we can all kind of communicate and kind of share what's going on, I think is really, like, that is a core function of the HBA, is that shared communication and the ability to then advocate on behalf of that the number of voices that are in our organization.
And I think that many members of the public, consumers, might think that this is just a group about home builders and their needs. But really, when it affects housing prices, we are talking about the needs of the consumer quite strongly.
100%. And it's surprising how many people we have conversations with on, every little segment of the industry, whether it's a builder, a developer, suppliers, any kind of laborers. Our subcontracted partners here in the Valley are a big part of that conversation too. Real estate agents, you name it.
I think a big thing on that is that we live in this community also. So not only as builders does it affect us, but as consumers, it also affects us as well. It drives up our home prices. So our goal is to make sure that we're protecting everybody with what we do, and to provide a product that's really good for everyone, because this is our home also. So yeah.
Thank you.
Last year alone, we our efforts with our advocacy, we saved over the building community $1.5 million. So that is money that was not put on the community or put in your mortgage. So I would say that is a very huge number, and really represents what our committees do and what our members do. It's pretty amazing.
That's great. Let's talk about one cost in particular that's been a big topic of conversation in the community, which is the park impact fees. They went up significantly. And can you explain a little bit about what happened and what's the real world dollar impact of the fee increase like that on a new home buyer?
Yeah, so I can probably speak to that pretty well. So the parks impact fee, it went up significantly. Part of that was just an increase in the way that they define what's called a level of service for the parks. So it's like, imagine before, our parks fee was based on parks improvements, just basically being like shrubs and turf and trees. And as you know, like, we have other parks that are much more active. You've got, like, example, like the skate park, like that has a ton of concrete. That was a really expensive park to build. So we have some nicer facilities in some of our parks. So part of that increase was just nicer improvements in the park. So actually having better facilities. And that was actually that was part of the fee that the HBA was actually supportive of. Because we see that those parks, that's a high quality park. The other half of the fee is the acquisition of parks and open space, and
Putting together a large pool of money that builds over time so that they can acquire new properties.
right as they need to acquire properties. And so that one was the one that the HBA, when we looked at it, it was a really high number for acquisitions. I think it was $147,000 an acre. We know because we buy land in the same areas that we need parks, and we weren't paying near that to acquire land. And this in the city, you should be able to acquire land for the same rate. So we started challenging that fee. Turned out there was a lot of errors in the data. So they did come back. That fee has come back and been revised, although it's taken a extreme amount of effort, and us like hiring a consultant and attorneys and trying to advocate for the city to take another look. But they have done that now, and they've brought in their ceiling, which is the in that study they come up with what's the highest legally defensible fee.
Right.
And so that's now down to, I think, $89,000 is the ceiling of that.
Per acre.
When you $89,000 per acre, which is, we think, still high, based on the city's parks plan. Where they expect to see parks is in the outlying areas, and the study that we'd had done by a consultant that does the same type of study. They said if you look in those areas and the data that the city provided, that cost should be about $47,000 an acre. And then the other question that we've put out to the city is, if you run their projections through what their consultant said, they would raise over the next 10 years this fee on housing, which is an increase to housing, would be about, I think it's $12 to $13 million that they would raise for parks over the next 10 years. And if you look back the last 10 years, we've only spent $2 million acquiring parks. And even in that period, they sold 18 acres at Berkey Park for, I think it was close to $750,000. So it's a fair question, I think, as any of us would do when we're looking at our budget. You know, if you're looking at your budget for the next year, you'd say, you know, we spent, in this case, $2 million. What's different? What do we see that's going to cause this number to be 13 million? Like, let's not just have a study tell us this. It's done by a consultant from out of town. That's only one perspective. So that's what we're asking the city.
And thank you for digging into it, because it was a lot of data from the consultant firm, and I know that they did make some mistakes in quite a few areas. And I think just opening a conversation to can we double check that, and can we revisit, and can we maybe find a better way? So thanks for advocating on that. Shayna, I think it's really important, and it's something that we're working on now in the affordable housing community, trying to get fees down.
I should say that will go to hearing on, I think, June 3rd. So that's usually at 5:30 at City Hall. So on June 3rd, there'll be a hearing, and the city will be discussing whether or not to adopt that at 100%, at the full $87,000 per acre estimate. Okay,
good to know. June 3rd, everybody. Shayna, let's talk about upcoming events and what you have going on. What's up for the Parade of Homes? What's new this year?
Yeah, so for Parade of Homes, last year we had a just amazing year. Also, thank you to our committee chair there.
It was really great.
For sure. Yes. So we're really hoping to replicate that again this year. And I think what was really successful last year is we had such a variety of homes. You know, we had everything from $373,000 all the way up to $3.8 million. So I think our community gets really excited about seeing that. And it's just such a wonderful example of our builders, their craftsmanship, and what they bring to the community every year.
And what are the dates this year?
So it will be the last weekend of September and the first weekend of October. Tickets are already available online if you are interested at gjparade.com. So we're really ahead of the game, which is wonderful. So tickets will be going up this year from $15 to $20 a ticket. We have not raised the price of a ticket in, I would say, over 10 to 15 years. So those will be going up just a bit this year. But other than that, we're looking forward to another really wonderful parade.
Well worth it to go see these beautiful homes. Definitely. And you have a couple of other events coming up as well?
Yes, we do. We have our diaper drive. So this is the first time that we brought, it's through Homemade in Denver, and it's Builders for Diapers. So we are bringing a semi full of diapers to 10 different nonprofits here. It all stays here local in our community. And if you'd like to donate, you can find the information on our website. May 15th, this Friday, is the last day to donate. And then distribution day will be June 18th. We also have our golf tournament coming up on July 24th. So if you'd like to sponsor,
always popular.
Yes, we have. We're already halfway through our team. So if you'd like to sign up to play, I would say sooner than later. And we have sponsorships available as well.
Okay, wonderful. So get involved with the HBA golf tournament and sponsor or play. Right. Let's talk a little bit more about housing affordability. Before a single nail is driven on a new home, how much have regulatory costs like impact fees, permit fees, and code compliance already added to the price tag? It might be kind of hard to quantify, but...
National average is 1/4. So 1/4 of the price of the home goes to fees and regulations right now.
So not hard to quantify.
Yeah, yes.
You guys know that like that. Okay.
Yes. So that is a national number. So when we're looking at not only locally here, but also the National Association of Home Builders, that is what we're seeing nationally.
I don't know that I could answer any better. I mean, I build all of our budgets at Porter Homes, and so I see numbers constantly. Permitting fees are always a tricky part to that equation, because if you want to build that house, whether it's $300,000 or $4 million, you're gonna have to have some kind of skin in the game on the permitting and planning side, and it's a part of what we do. And I guess that boils back down to the partnerships between the HBA and our local officials, and all of our other organizations that are working to try to help regulate the costs a little bit.
Yeah, having an open dialogue and giving them feedback.
That's right. Without the open dialogue between each party, this doesn't happen.
What about labor shortages? Are we faced with any labor shortages in the Grand Valley, and how is that affecting housing prices?
I would say, from being a builder, from my perspective, I do agree that we see some of that, but I don't think it's as bad here locally in the Grand Valley as it is in some other areas. And with that, I think it's important to kind of segue into the opportunities that CICC is bringing, because they're the ones that are focusing on the next generations of builders and subcontractors. Getting the younger generations in the trades is a big deal, because if we don't do that, then we will be in a problem.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Carrie?
Yes. So careers in construction is near and dear to my heart. It was something that we brought to the HBA 2 years ago, and it started in Colorado Springs with a builder that I used to work with in the Colorado Springs market. And we brought it here knowing that it was exactly what our schools and what our students and what our industry needed. And so what we are doing with that program is we put construction classes back into the high schools so that kids have an opportunity directly across the hall in their schools to be able to go in and start learning different trades. There are 13 different trades that the kids can start to learn. In their first year, we teach the students, they receive their OSHA 10 certification. They do tool identification, tool math. We teach them interviewing skills, how to write a resume, everything that you would need to be able to start a job in the construction industry. In any industry, you should be able to have that. But this specifically lines our kids up to be able to walk out into the construction industry, to be able to capture those jobs that are out there. And it's a really incredible program. So they do that their first year. And then after that, the schools get to decide what programs they bring in afterwards. For example, at Palisade High School, they brought in, I think it was electrical and carpentry this year, so that the students can have those 2 certifications there. And what's really incredible on this is that the certifications are from HBI, which are nationally certified, or they're national certifications. So a student can take them with them to anywhere that they go and say, I have the certification that's nationally recognized, which is pretty incredible. And then in the state of Colorado, sorry, I'm so excited over this. The state
Don't
of Colorado
apologize.
is
Great.
the only state that has a waiver for our students that once they have taken and passed their very first certification in that very first course that they have, they can work on job sites at the age of 15. So it's pretty incredible, and we already have that happening right now within our community. We have students that are going on to job sites already. We had our very first careers in construction hire for one of our local businesses here, which is pretty incredible. And hats off to Monarch HVAC for they took a huge chance and they brought in some kids and did an internship with them and have their first hire.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
It's pretty
wonderful.
incredible.
With all the talk about AI and how it might affect jobs, you hear a lot about the construction industry being really good job security. Like, we're always going to need electricians and plumbers and all these tradesmen. Would you agree with that? There's a strong need down the road?
It's a huge need. We had an opportunity to present to the juniors for District 51 at CMU a few months ago. And one of the things that we were able to talk to them about was the wages that students are able to achieve once they go into certain trades that they're in. And it is forecasted that plumbers will actually outpace doctors in what they earn based on the trades that are out there. So whether we get to that point here in Mesa County or Delta or Montrose County, I don't know, but I think it's pretty incredible that we can offer opportunities like that to our local students.
Mm-hmm. So that's a high school program. Is there also a connection with like CMU and the community, CMU Tech?
Yes. So CMU Tech, they work with District 51 and some of the other school districts, and they do a concurrent program where the students can work or can go to school at their prospective high school or their respective high school and then go into CMU to be able to work with their programs that they have there. Ours starts before that. And I think what I love about our program is that we're not taking away from CMU Tech in any way whatsoever. What I appreciate is that we're making that funnel even larger for CMU, and we're making the opportunities for these students even greater so that they can experience these classes ahead of time, so that when they finally become a junior and senior, when most of those concurrent classes happen at CMU, is that they now have the knowledge base to understand, this is what I want to do. I want to get a little bit higher of an education, or they go into the construction management program. So I see it as a win-win for our students, but I also see it as a win-win for CMU and all of the kids that are going through the whole program.
So if there are parents or students out there watching or listening, how do they get involved? Do they contact the HBA? Do they contact their school? What if it's, the program that they want to participate in is not offered at the school they attend?
So right now we are actually offered in all of our local high schools except for Central High School, but as of next year, every single high school within District 51 will have this program. And so they would just go to their counseling office to speak to their counselors. They can go to their quote unquote shop teacher and talk to them. Any of the teachers at the school should know about the program, but of course the parents can also contact the HBA and we can get them involved with the respective people at each one of the high schools. We're also in Montrose and Olathe High School as well. Fabulous. And we are in the conversations with other high schools within our region. Their careers in construction program is actually in 97 different high schools in the state of Colorado.
Wow. Well, kudos to all of you at the HBA for working on another issue in our community, which is workforce. That's a big part of home building, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the future of home building and growth in the Valley. Demand in Western Colorado remains strong. I think, as a realtor, and we all live here, we all love our community, we all see the benefits of living here, we know why people are attracted to Grand Junction. That's not going to change. We live in one of the most beautiful places, and we're still one of the more affordable places in Colorado, even though we've seen the prices go up significantly. I bought my house in 2019, and I'm really glad I did. Things have gone crazy since then. But still, compared to other communities in Colorado, we look pretty good. So what does responsible, sustainable growth look like for this region over the next few years?
That's a really good question. From my perspective, as the builder, the land is already available in most cases. The client has already found what they're looking for, and they have this grandiose vision of the ultimate dream for them. So from my perspective, that side of it's easy. I think what we need to really study and decipher is, at the development stage, what are the responsibilities that we have to take on as builders and developers to put the right product into the market? You know, we see a lot of different things. I think diversity is a big part of that. We have to have, you know, the lower income housing opportunities for the younger generations who are just coming into the workforce. That has to be a solid place to start for them. We also need the same places where they can start to upgrade and eventually retire. You know, a lot of the people that we build for at Porter Homes are early retirees, and the opportunities for them, they come from somewhere else in the state or in the U.S., and they come in and they're able to achieve that dream on the western slope of Colorado because of the cost and where they're coming from. So I would say the number one thing is, how do we envision, if we were to look at Mesa County on a map, it's not going to stop growing for any of us.
Yeah.
How are we going to do it responsibly and make those goals achievable from anybody in their 20s through their 80s?
Growth can be hard, right? Not everybody wants growth, but it's just a reality of life in Colorado and most places.
So I had one thing is, and I think it still is real, I think like the American dream of home ownership really is for most, and it's not for everybody, but most people really do want to have a house with a yard, single family detached house with a yard. And we can still deliver those affordably if we're careful about putting too much regulation on those things. The other thing that I think is important, like people talk about like conserving land and like smart growth and those things, but also like if we're developing land at 1 house per 5 acres, then we're putting 4 homes on 20 acres. And so then if you think about, if we need so many houses a year, like that really tends to sprawl out, and that is not conservation. So in some ways, like density is a form of conservation because it allows people to have housing, and you can go, like City of Fruita did a great job with their comp plan. They talked to people, what do you want? They didn't, they didn't really want density, but then they started showing it in the product types. And they were showing them houses. It was like kind of the houses around their downtown, and that's what the residents of Fruita were like. We really like this. Well, it turned out that was higher density than what they realized. So I think that was a really good exercise, a good way to go about it. So I think the comprehensive plan is a great tool, and I think the city will continue to look at that. I do think we shouldn't have a last one in, close the door behind you type of a policy. And we know, we've seen that in other communities, and that does really drive up costs. Obviously, it's important to us, for our next generations, for our children, to be able to afford homes, and those types of policies is going to make it really difficult for them. So, but yeah, just to go back to, I think the American dream is still a reality. Yeah. I think people really want that.
Yeah. Interesting conversation I had with somebody recently was about how in the East Coast, young people are so used to condos and townhomes, you know, with a lot denser, older communities, that house, single family house with a yard is down the road for most people. And I think here in Colorado, we haven't had as much of that product to offer traditionally, but we're getting more townhomes, right? Yes. Available, some more condos too. But I like that mentality, like just get in, start small. Yes. You don't have to buy the single family house with a yard right away. Just buy some real estate so you can build. Yes. Yeah. From somebody involved in the home building industry, I'd love your opinion on what you think Grand Junction is going to be like in 20 years. What do you see coming?
Wow, that's a great question, especially as my boys are, to see where they would be at that age too in 20 years. I think just seeing the progress of the HBA and our community, the building community, just in that past 5 years from where we were to where we're going, I'm just humbled by it all the time. And I think as long as we keep having those conversations, and we're having the builders have the conversations such as the affordability task force with the city, as long as we are still having those conversations and creating that community of development and growth, I think it's going to be really wonderful.
Kevin?
20 years. Yeah, that's hard. I'm just like, even thinking about my kids getting a driver's license is like, I don't want to think that far ahead.
It happens before you know it. Yeah.
So, I would love to see a shift of, like, I think we need to be in a, like right now, and I think I'm being a little bit specific to like sort of where my emphasis in the HBA is, but on the advocacy side, I think we really need to get serious about a deregulatory period. And I would just challenge like any electeds or people that are watching this, have Christi show you a house that's on the market today that was built in 1950. It's a perfectly livable home. It has none of the costs and the regulations that are associated with our new builds today. Those are perfectly. Probably a lot of listeners are living in a nice 1950s, 1980s era built home. So I would challenge you that because, our youth. Our average first time home buyer age is 40.
Yeah, that's really risen a lot.
Because of us. That's because of the prior generations. It's masked. We've lived in an amazing period of wealth generation and abundance, and that's masked a lot of the regulations that we've put on ourselves. But now we're seeing our children, this next generation. And I think we talk about the American dream. The average net worth today of a homeowner is $400,000 in Colorado. The average net worth of a renter is 10. And so I think that's something that we want for our community and for our children, is to be able to attain that. And we don't want them to have to wait until 40. None of us did. None of us had to. That was readily available to anybody just making a decent wage could have bought a house. Back when I bought my first house. And so I think we need to be, I think going forward, I think we need to do that now, but I think going forward, what I would like to see is we tend to do the regulatory, we're going to force things to happen the way that we vision. I think we're skipping what we want to do is we want to move towards an evolution. We can speed things up. We can look at the way things are going, and we can help things evolve, and we can choose like priorities and places to grow from. And I think if we start thinking about code and vision in that sense, we'll actually get a lot further than we do when we're doing the force how maybe the city council at that time wants things to be. Because you kind of go in these gyrations, and it's just not great for the community. Yeah,
it's a process, right? And things aren't super easily changed. I mean, it's a big ship to kind of right it, but with a lot of community input. Especially, I like what you commented about Fruta and their input process. I don't think that the Grand Junction seems to be quite as involved in the input into code changes and all the things, because there's open meetings, right, and chances for input. But I don't know, maybe Grand Junction can do a better job of inviting people as well.
Well, we did steal Fruta's city manager that accomplished that in Fruta. So I have hope that is, and I think we're seeing some change. I want to give some credit to city manager. I think that's the city manager wants the city to be transparent. He wants to see people being listened to, and he wants to see the community evolve versus being like the heavy-handed approach. So I want to give him a little bit of credit, but it is a tough. Yes, as you said, it's a tough ship to turn.
Yeah, but he is already making changes. I had him on the podcast last month, so I love talking to him, and I love his energy and his optimism. Yeah. Do you want to weigh in on what you see coming?
What I see coming. So So I am a native. I grew up in the area. And so I have seen this valley change significantly from growing up here. Places that you used to that were completely dirt are now built up. And I then also living on the eastern slope, it was a heavily planned community wherever I live, in the Colorado Springs area. The growth was always heavily planned. And so then coming back here, sometimes I think it feels schizophrenic when you first come back here, because you would have like a build here and then not a build here and a farm. And I think growth is difficult for a lot of people who were raised here. The growth of the Grand Valley is very difficult. They don't want to see it become another great big city. But I think that if we are smart about what we do, if we do have the conversations that we should have within the community, we can continue to see the growth that is currently happening, that it's just going to continue to happen, but in a really good way that's going to contribute to our valley, that's going to contribute to the beauty of our valley, and be able to offer something more, not just for people who are wanting to come back over here and retire, because we have a very large population of retirees. Yes. But in the past 5 years, we have seen a huge influx of maybe not so much families, but younger people that are wanting to come over here because of what this valley offers to people. So I continue to see it be a place of growth, but a really beautiful growth that we can have here. So, yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, I think I might have a little different perspective.
Let's
no
hear
offense to Kevin, I'm a little younger.
Yeah.
From what I think, well, live on air, there you go.
Right
on. What I think we're going to is the younger people who are going to come in to replace the existing builders and the developers and elected officials, and who's going to be running our community one day. I think I'm hopeful that we will have a dialogue in those relationships. Like, the building industry is all relationships. Yes. All my subs, my vendors, all my employees, everybody is under a relationship. And you continuously try to build that rapport. If we continue to do the same thing with our elected officials and the processes are trusted, I think we're going to be in a really good position to maintain that down the road in 20 years. I also think that, like, personally, I try to live my life with 2 young boys and a beautiful wife. I want to be able to not just, I don't want to just afford the house. Yeah. I want to be able for them to enjoy the valley. Like, our childhood was amazing growing up. We got to enjoy everything the valley had to offer. And we need to be able to provide that to the same degree.
Well said. All of you. Thank you. I think it's becoming really clear how important the HBA is now and in the future to advocate for these things, to be a little bit of a watchdog, a little bit of a collaborator, not just a little bit, a great collaborator, and like bringing the information that you see affecting housing to the elected officials and to all the processes that we have to adhere to. It's really important. Well, I want to thank all 4 of you from the HBA for joining us here today. And we are trying to get more information about the housing industry out to our community. If people want to get involved with the HBA, if they're not a builder, is there a way other than, of course, go to the Parade of Homes, donate to the diaper drive, but what other ways can people get involved?
Yeah, really reach out directly. I think there's something for everybody, obviously, as you've talked to all of us. At the HBA, we have our pillars of advocacy and networking and education. And we really love to meet with somebody, if you're interested in membership, to really find what is important to you and how we can support you, and making sure that we're also the other way around too. We want our members just to be as happy as having them part of our membership. So our website, again, is www.hbawesternco.com, or please reach out to us directly at 970-245-0253.
Awesome.
I would just throw a little note out to everybody watching or listening that if you feel called to help us on the government affairs side, events like June 3rd, we have a public hearing at City Council to discuss the impact fees. We get 3 minutes per person for testimony. It is paramount for us to show up for those things. So feel free. It's open to the public.
And then my last plug for careers in construction, because without our local businesses helping us to be able to support it, because that's one thing that I didn't discuss, is that our HBA actually funds these programs within the high schools. It does not come from the school district. So we rely on the funding from companies and businesses here in town, and then individuals. But not only that, for the funding portion of it, but if there are any businesses that are interested in getting involved in it, we bring kids to their job sites, and we also bring people into the schools to help with the students there in the schools. We welcome that opportunity. So great. Glad to learn more about that program. And you don't have to be a builder to become a member of the HBA, right? Correct. So set up a meeting with Shayna and decide if there's a place for you and a way that you can help with our housing in our community. So, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm Christi Reece. You got one more thing to say?
No, I was just saying thank you. Into the microphone. Anybody else?
Make sure we get that recorded. All right. Christi Reece signing off from the Full Circle podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks for listening. This is Christi Reece signing out from the Full Circle podcast.